Okay, this is the most basic example of Google Apps Script. Hello world. Okay, so if you look at the description below, you'll see a link to a Google Doc. Click on it, make a copy of the spreadsheet, and you could follow along with your own copy. Okay, so let's run the program. Let's have a look and run it. So go to Tools, Script Editor. This is Google Apps Script here. And ignore all this coding here. This is just my explanation. The lines of code we're going to run is 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you run it, it's going to print hello world in cell 1-1, which is cell A1. And you can see it's right there. Okay? So here's how it's going to work. Oops, this is left over from last time. Just delete that. Ignore that. Right. Here's how it's going to work. So here's my function called myFunction, and this is a variable called SS. And what I'm doing is I'm calling a class library called Spreadsheet app. Okay. This class library is a whole bunch of computer code provided to us by Google that we're going to use to interact with their spreadsheet. In fact, what Google provides, it's pretty much every single product that Google has out there has a class library, a big chunk of code that lets you make your own plugins and interact with their products. Okay, so let's take a look at what that class looks like. So I'm going to open a new window. I'm going to go Google Apps Script Spreadsheet app, just like that. That should bring me right to the class right there. Okay, so here is the class library for Spreadsheet app. A class library is a collection of related computer code that someone else provides, usually in this case Google provides. Inside of a class library are functions, okay, methods, or behaviors. These are all the functions, method, or behavior here. Okay. Let's go back. Class library. Go back. Oops. There. Okay. These are all the methods and behaviors and functions. These are the things that the class library can do. A class library is you use the class library to create an object. When you create an object or a reference or an instance based on a class library, that object, reference, or instance has all of the functions, methods, and behaviors that's defined in the class library. A class library also has what we call properties, okay, or variables basically, and what properties are is they describe the object in various capacities. So we're not going to really use properties too much, but yeah. Now this class library, as most class library, is provided by someone else, in this case Google. Now for all these functions, you don't need to know what the functions, you need to know what the functions do, but you really don't care about how the function works. That's invisible to us because number one, we're not allowed to change it. Number two, it really doesn't matter. All you need to know as a high-end programmer is that the function works, is going to do what you expect it to do, and that's all you really care about. Okay, let's come back to here. So I'm calling inside of the Spreadsheet app class library is a function called getActiveSpreadsheet. Now I should see in here getActiveSpreadsheet as right there. Okay, so here is what it does. It gets the active spreadsheet, okay, which is this spreadsheet here. Alright, here is example of the coding, and it returns a sheet object. Okay, a sheet object. So sheet is another class library provided by Google. Okay, so let's click on that. Okay, here's a class sheet. Alright, so when this function is called, so this function getActive, here's the proper terminology. The function, method, or behavior called getActiveSpreadsheet exists within the Spreadsheet app class library. When this getActiveSpreadsheet function is called, it returns a object or a reference or an instance called sheet, and we're going to set the variable SS to the sheet object, which is returned by the getActiveSpreadsheet method, behavior, or function, which is found inside of the Spreadsheet app class library. Using the sheet object returned by getActiveSpreadsheet, we're going to call a getDataRange method or behavior or function. If I look into the sheet class, which I have here, I should see getDataRange function. Let's take a look what it looks like. GetDataRange. There it is. Here's a getDataRange function method or behavior. What it does, example of how it works, and it returns a range. Okay, let's click on that. Alright. So getDataRange function method or behavior exists within the Spreadsheet class, and when called it returns a range. We're going to set the value range, okay, equal to the object in which this function call returns. Now we're going to, now you notice here the SS range. Okay, now we're going to use range. Inside of the range class, I expect to see a method, behavior, or function called getCell11. So let's see, getCell class range. Where's getCell? Class range. getCell right there. Okay, so here's the getCell, get the row, get the column. Okay, here's an example of how it works, and returns a range value. It returns the same data type, range, no problem. Okay, so okay, the range variable defined here is set to whatever return value that the getDataRange method, function, or behavior returns. It returns a range object. We set it to this one here. We use that object, okay, to call getCell11, which is cell A1, and return that to a different variable called cell. This also has a range object. Okay, we're going to use a cell range object to call another function called setValueHelloWorld. Okay, so inside of the range class, I expect to see setValue. And it should be here somewhere. Let's look in here. Okay, so inside the we're inside the range class. I'm gonna go set. Holy smokes, there's a lot of set value right there. So here's set value. Okay, again, what it does. Okay. Example of how it works, and also returns a range value. Okay, no problem, or a range object. Okay, so sets a value, sets it to sets value, and yeah, that's it. Okay. Now, what I want to show you is I noticed here. This is kind of interesting. I notice here that when you go to set, alright, you could do something like set background color. That's kind of interesting. Set background color. So you know what? I'm gonna just try it just for fun. Okay. So set background color. So in here, I'm gonna go. Okay, in this point here, and go var color equals cell dot set. Actually, let me just paste it there. Set background color red. So I expect to turn that cell red. So here it is. Okay, let's run it and see what it does. Okay, run. There it is. Okay, I'm curious. When you're programming something, when doing something new, being curious and willing to experiment is the best way for you to learn something new. So I'm going to set this green. Why not? I'm only guessing. I have no idea this is going to work. Ah, there you go. It works. Just because I'm having so much fun. Hold light green. Now I really don't know if this is going to work. Haha, that's pretty cool. It works. Okay, so you see here, what I'm doing is I just saw it and decided to play with it. Set background is a function inside of the range class. Cell, okay, oops. Okay, cell is an object inside of the range class because it is defined in this line here. Okay, when you call get cell, this function returns a range object which we apply to cell. We're using the range object to call a different function called set background. Okay. Now, I should mention that for a professional programmer, they're not going to do all of this work. For these two lines, this line, it's just too much work for a professional programmer. What they're going to do is you're going to throw that whole thing in one complicated line, and it's going to look like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line here, Control C, copy it. I'm going to delete I'm going to delete all the stuff here and just replace it with that one single line. Okay, so I could do the whole thing in one go. Now let's take a look. Should put hey there. Okay, let's run it and let's see here, and sure it prints hey right there. Okay, so what this does, it does everything I talked about. It does it in one single line. The first thing it's going to do, okay, it's going to, using the get spreadsheet app, the first step is that it's going to call the get active spreadsheet function method behavior inside of the spreadsheet app class library. Okay, and then that's going to come back with a spreadsheet object, and then the spreadsheet object is going to call, we're going to use the spreadsheet object to call a function called get data range. That's going to return, okay, this is now going to be what I highlighted here. Basically it's going to be a range object, and using the range object inside of the range class, I have get cell. Okay, now this whole thing becomes a range object again, because when you call get cell, it returns the same range object. Okay, and then I'm going to use the range object to call another function method behavior inside of the range class library called set value. Okay, and yeah, that's it. Now I'm totally curious. I don't know if this is going to work. Set value should return a range value again. Okay, and I could use a method function behavior that I just learned how to use, okay, inside of the range class to do something else. Let's try it. Dot set, oh there it is, set background. Let's go to orange. Okay, I believe it was in quotes. Okay, let's run it, okay, and see if this works. Ha! It actually worked. That's crazy. That's pretty cool. Okay, and the reason it worked is because I know that set value, okay, returns a range object. Okay, so set value. Where's set value? Okay, set value. Okay, you see that? It returns a range object right there. It says so right there. Okay, and when it returns a range object, I know that I can use the same range object to change the value. Now, just because I'm having so much fun, let's try this. Set font weight. Oh, bold. Okay, set font weight bold. So now, because I also know that set background returns a range object, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go set font weight. Okay, I'm going to call this one bold, just like that. Okay, run it, and it should turn it bold, and there it is. It turns it bold. Isn't that cool? Now I'm just take a wild guess and set this back to normal, and set this to blue. Okay, run it, and let's see if it works. Ha! That's pretty cool. You know what? I'm just having so much fun here. I'm going to set this to light blue. There you go. Okay, so that's how it works. So I don't expect anyone to get this. How do you know, what are class libraries? What are objects, references, and behaviors? What are references and objects? You're not going to get that from one video. You need to watch 20, and then you're going to take a piece from one video, and then you're going to help you understand a piece from another video, and then that's going to help you understand something else. And by the time you really understand how object-oriented programming works, you'll wonder how you were ever confused, because it all makes so much sense. But it is incredibly confusing when you first try to learn it. So anyways, again, if you're just joining us, make sure you check the link in the description below. That will link to this spreadsheet, which you can play around with, and make a copy for yourself and follow along with this video. If you're not in my class, then you can leave a comment, and I'll with your questions, and I will try to answer them. Okay, talk to you later.